Tonight we're continuing Siman test on Hilchos Tzitzis, and we continue with Sifyud base. When we talk about wool in the Torah or in the poskim, it refers to the wool that you get from lambs or from rams. The talishash sihu shel tzemeh ha'orev ha'erev hu shel tzemeh gefen omeshi. So a talis where the material in one direction is wool and in the other direction is cotton or silk or any other similar material. Or the other way around, that the one direction is wool and the other direction is some other material. And someone who fears heaven should not make a bracha on that sort of talis. Mishum, because there are some who say that even if you got tzitzis made of wool, which is what the Torah talks about, it doesn't pota a beged unless that beged is also made from the same material, right? Also wool. So if the material is made of two different, if the talis is made of two different materials, then it's possible that there's no way to make a proper tzitzis for that beged. Similarly, if you've got talis that's entirely made of silk, and the tzitzis are made of wool, you should not make any bracha on that sort of talis. First, you should make a bracha on a talis which is made of wool with woolen tzitzis, and then wear that. And then you can take off that one which is made of tzemeh and put on the other one which is made of the mixture. But if the talis is made of silk and the tzitzis are also made of silk, then he of course can make a bracha on that tzitzis. But we don't frequently find, this was in his day, in his time, we don't normally find in our countries tzitzis made of silk. Because tzitzis has to be spun for the sake of the mitzvah of tzitzis. Evidently they didn't have such. It was whatever wool silk they got must have been pre-spun. But in mixos tzitzis shall meshi mixoson shall tzemeh. Now, if some of the tzitzis, the beged is a mixture of silk and wool, and the tzitzis is also a mixture of silk and wool, garotfei, that's even worse. The ein nafsas kain, and you should not do that. Sifyud gimel. Tzitzar, if you've got one individual strand of your tzitzis, shenifsak meno chut ba'abasa chutin, and one of the four threads is snapped, shein kafun lishmona, right? You take that you have essentially four threads that you double over into 8. If one of those 4 is snapped, the nishma mena kadei, but you've still got enough left to do the wrapping, the hainu abog egodlin, which is the shear of 4 thumb breadths. Oh, nifsaku shnaim, or even if 2 of your 4 threads have snapped, and each of the two snapped ones has 4 thumb breadths left, and the other 2 are the proper length, then it's all kosher. But if 3 of the 4 threads have snapped, even if each of those snapped ones still has 4 thumb breadths left, and the 4th one is completely whole, or even if only one of the threads has snapped, but it snaps so much that you don't even have 4 thumb breadths left on it, even if the remaining 3 are all completely the right length and intact, nevertheless, that is possible, unless it's some sort of emergency situation. And therefore, so if in practical we don't see the 4, we see the 8 threads hanging down. So if one of the 8 that is hanging down has snapped, even if it snaps completely all the way back until where you have the knots and the wrap round bit, obviously it's kosher. Why? Because since this thread is really only half of one of your 4 originals, and so the other half is bound to have enough to wrap round and more. Therefore, we have certain that you've still got enough that you're still kosher. But if 2 threads have snapped, and neither one of them has 4 agodlin left. So now it's possible they're from the same thread. So if it's possible that there's a concern these 2 threads are really attached to each other and they're from the same original one of 4 threads, in Cain had tzitz opposite, therefore the tzitz is possible because you now have one thread which doesn't, you may have one thread which doesn't have the right length, even doesn't have the 4 thumb breadths. But if you're sure that they are from 2 threads and they're not attached to each other, to go, for example, that when you're doing the tying, you're careful that when you do the tying, you always make sure that the 4 ends stay together always, and the other 4 ends always stay together, so that when you tie, you can be sure that those which are on one side of the knot are not attached to each other if they're on the same side of the knot. Therefore, so now, if, for example, 2 ends on the same side of the knot break, in Cain you're sure they're from 2 actually from 2 different threads out of the original 4. Yeah. And since in that case each of the threads will have the shear of the 4 thumb breadths and a bit more on the other side of the knot, and the other 2 are definitely still whole, therefore that tzitzis on that corner is kosher. So, but if the break is not at the bottom where it's hanging down, but right up next to the hole where they're hanging out the hole, then it's possible. Now, when we said that if one of the threads breaks, but it has still a certain amount left on it, then it's kosher. That's only if, when you originally made it, each of the threads was the right length, but it broke afterwards. If, when you made it, even if one of the threads was too short, and even if it's only a tiny bit too short, then the whole thing is possible. So if you're done it, the threads of the tzitzis have to be twisted. And if any of the threads becomes untwisted somehow, then you have to consider all the part that's untwisted as if it's been cut off and it's not there. And if you have so much untwisted that you don't have the right shear left, you have to deal with it as we just learned, as if it was cut. Let's suppose you have a talis which has tzitzis on, and the talis is made in such a way that it can be divided into 2 halves. Like we find with many of our talisim, right, Kitzur in his day, that they are attached, made out of 2 separate parts. But if and sometimes you might take those 2 halves apart in order to clean it or to fix it somehow. And then after you've done whatever you're doing with the 2 halves, you bring them back together and reattach them with some sewing. Since in the normal case, presumably each half individually still has enough that you could wear it on its own. And therefore, it's sufficient to remove 2 tzitzis, that means on 2 corners, from whichever half you want. Remove all the tzitzis from one half. And then after you reattach the talis back together, and then you should retie those 2 that you took off. But if neither part has enough material that you could wear, then you have to move all the 4 tzitzis. Because when you separate the 2 parts, each half being too small becomes pot from having to have tzitzis. And then when you put them back together again, and now they become chayav in tzitzis as a combined whole, in Yisharu Harishonis, if you had left the original tzitzis on it from the very beginning, possible, it's still possible, it's possible. Because of the principle that the tzitzis have to be something which you make and not something which is already made. Because else, if like we discussed before, so if the tzitzis were already on it from the time from before it became chayav in tzitzis until afterwards, then this is considered as if it's not something you've made, something that was already made. Now suppose one of the parts of this baguette had enough that you could wear and one half didn't, then then it's not like we said before that you can remove from whichever side you want. On the contrary, here you have to remove the tzitzis from this half that would not be able to be worn, because that's the half that's actually potter from tzitzis. Have a good evening.